Okay, welcome back to another great episode of the Quarter Notes podcast, presented by Los Cabos Drumsticks, Canada's #1 drumstick manufacturer. Now, each episode, I get to have a fantastic conversation with an awesome guest, and this week is no different. I get to speak with Newfoundland's very own Dan George. Now, Dan is one of the most sought-after drummers on the rock. He's currently touring with Nick Earle and the Reckless Hearts, and he also performs with Justin Fancy. Now, I first met Dan back in 2022 at the ECMA Awards in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Newfoundland has such a great amount of talent, and they were very well represented at the ECMAs that year. Now, Dan was the guy behind the drum kit for pretty much all of the Newfoundland showcases. So he was literally running from one stage to the next to be a part of each of the artist showcases that he was performing with. Dan is such a humble and relaxed individual, really easy guy to hang out with. And we pretty much pick up right where we left off from like 2 years ago. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Dan George.
She's a live wire in the night, a little bit of crazy in my life, a little rock and roll to cure my blues. She's the kind of girl I was born to lose.
Amazing.
Amazing. Wow. It's been like forever, man. Like, how you been?
Lovely. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Dude, it's been a couple years for sure.
Yeah, it was what, 20 shit. When was the ECMAs in Fredericton? It was 2021? No, 2022.
2022, I do believe. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah, it's been a couple. Well, I mean, it hasn't been that long, I guess, but it feels like it. I mean,
It feels that long. It feels like that long for sure,
Yeah.
man.
there's a lot has happened since then for sure.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this down for 2 seconds because I'm gonna see if I can set this mic stand up on the other side of me so it kind of
Yeah,
like
boom it up. Boom it up.
isn't blocking off everything. Although I don't know, you could probably still hear me if it's from right here, just not as well, hey?
I mean, you've got a pretty deep baritone thing going on, so I think a lot of stuff is going to get picked up.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I've been told I project.
Yeah.
I
It's that
project.
theater background.
Yeah. Yeah, very strong theater background.
I don't even know if you did theater.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, very much not a theater background for me.
Yeah. What kit do you
Now
have
this
back
time
there?
I'm
Is
like,
that an
"Ooh."
electronic kit?
Yeah, I actually just got that in December.
Yeah.
I finally threw down. I'll see if I can get because I'm connected to my laptop right here, but
Yeah.
I threw down on an electronic kit after years and years and years of deliberation.
Yeah.
It was like okay, all right, I think it's finally time. I think
Yeah.
it's finally time. So I went with one of the VAD the 307 kit. So not quite like it looks like an acoustic kit, but it's not the shells
Mhm.
that you would be paying. Like there's no way in hell I'd ever be able to afford to drop like 15 grand
Like
on
that
an
DWE
electronic.
kit.
Yeah.
It's
I
insane.
looked at that and I was like, really cool concept. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, still an electronic drum kit.
But it's
You know?
Wi-Fi. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's all,
Everything, yeah, they put a lot of work into that. They put a
yeah.
lot of work into that because I know that like they're marketing it for live use
Yeah.
for like touring musicians.
I don't know.
Uh,
I trust that, man.
that's the
Like,
thing. I think a lot of people are it's gonna have to prove itself on a
yeah.
live stage
Yeah.
before anything like that gets approved for
Yeah.
like I'd be scared to use it live just because I do use a lot of electronics live now,
Mhm.
um, but it's not wireless.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
like
Well,
I got power and
I mean, we say that, but like guitar players and singers, like it's all
that's fair.
that,
That's fair.
that wireless pickups, not the pickups, but like, the packs that they have and all that. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's the same. I mean, I'm not too nerdy into that stuff. Like, I don't even know what a tube amp is. So, you know,
Yeah, leave it to the drummers.
leave it, it's,
Let's not go down that.
no. It's a drum kit. Is it mic'd? Cool. Can you hear the kick? Awesome. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There we go. There we go.
Ready to go. Yeah.
I do appreciate the electronics though, like
Yeah.
especially this being able to practice at home whenever I want.
Yeah.
Oh man, It's amazing. It's like not disturbing any neighbors or anything like that, and I can
You
program
can cut a
sounds
quick
into it.
demo.
Yeah, it's really good for cutting quick demos too
Yeah.
because I'm running it as a MIDI controller basically. So I
Hmm.
use that. I don't think I've used the stock sounds on it once. I used it
Do, 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 boo,
immediately.
boo, boo.
Yeah, plugged it in. Oh, that's cool. It works. And
Yeah.
plugged it into MIDI and it's going through an interface there and that runs through I run Get Good Drums
Yeah.
and man, the sounds out of that are
A lot of
incredible.
people are using that software.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's that's what I'm using now. And man, it sounds great.
Yeah. A buddy of mine, really, I'm pretty sure he used Get Good Drum. Like he's a drummer, but he's not like a full, like he can play in a like a kind of a cover band kind of thing. Like he's not like
Yeah,
super, he wouldn't call himself a drummer, but he can play the drums, but
yeah,
he can
yeah.
program drums.
That's like
Like,
me and
yeah.
guitar.
Yeah. Same.
I can play guitar. I'm
Yeah.
not a guitar player.
No. And he just cut a metal album. Um,
Oh, no way.
and he used Get Good Drums. Like he programmed the whole thing. And now he's like putting a band together, I think.
Yeah. When you really
Or
pay attention to
yeah.
what you're doing in the programming too,
Yeah.
man, it's like you can do anything. You
Yeah.
can do absolutely anything. The only thing is you have to make sure that obviously
It
it
sounds
kind
like
of
a drummer's playing
it
it.
sounds like a drummer's playing it. Put all the velocities at 100%
Yeah.
right across the board.
Yeah. Um, so let's talk about you. Let's get to know you a little bit. So you're from Newfoundland?
Yeah, born and raised in St. John's, Newfoundland.
Okay, and that's where you're based out of.
That's where I am right
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
Okay.
travel
Um,
around quite a bit, but
so yeah, you've been traveling a lot.
not in the past couple years. Well, I
Mm.
guess a little bit, but not like everybody else has been
Yeah.
pretty flat out.
Yeah.
I've been flat out here at my home base, and then going for some flying dates and festivals and stuff.
Here and there, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you come from a big family?
No, not really. No. Mom, dad, my sister, and myself.
Okay.
It's not like I know people who have 35 cousins, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I have like 4 cousins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I'm one of
no, they
the
kept it small. They kept it
yeah.
small.
I'm one of the former, but it's turning into the latter. Like I found like previous generations, it was just like my mom comes from 16 brothers and sisters, and they
That's
all
wild.
and like the first like five or six of them, they all had like eight or nine kids. So then you
Kept the
multiply,
tradition alive.
yeah, right. So it's just anyway. So and I mean I have cousins that I know that like I'll bump into. I
Yeah,
won't know their name. I'll know I'm related, but that's about it. You
yeah,
know, I met them like twice and they're like 20 years older than I am. Like, yeah, that's kind of the normal
yeah.
Acadian family.
I think so, right? Like I have a couple cousins that are 20 years older than me. There's a couple cousins that are only 4 and 5 years older than me,
Hmm.
and then there's one that just started university this year.
Okay.
I'm no longer the baby.
Oh, I'm sorry about
Like
that.
my
Yeah.
condolences, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So is music something that's always been around in your family? Like, do you have a pedigree of people before you that played music?
Yeah, my dad was big into music, toured when he was in his early 20s, and
Oh, he toured.
yeah, I now it would be hard pressed for me to remember any of the bands that he was out with, but he's
What
a
does he
keys
play?
player.
Keys. Okay.
Yeah, keys player originally, and still plays, but like not like regularly clubs and
Mhm.
anything like that. It's kind of just like after he was done with the touring and settled down with a family and office job and stuff
Mhm.
like that, like kept playing, but wasn't interested in the being on the road at all, which I mean, like I can 100% understand.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially with family. It's hard. I mean, it's hard just in general, let
Yeah,
alone with, people at home depending on you or,
of
you know,
course.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and was, you know, immersed in music my entire life. So I'd say yes, I come from a pretty musical background.
okay, yeah, because I mean, you're a killer drummer, so clearly you've been playing for at least long enough to, sort of, I won't say master the craft because nobody ever really does, but
Yeah, I was
you're
gonna
very
say.
you're very proficient and very articulate in your playing.
Well,
Like,
thanks, man.
um, well, dude, you got to give flowers when they're due. When did you start playing the drums?
uh Drumming for me was really early on. I can remember my mom telling me, like, I grew up in church too, so grew up playing in church as soon as I could remember, and I always was hyper fixated on whatever the drummer was doing
Hmm.
whenever they were like doing worship songs and stuff like that.
Gospel
And
chops.
pretty much. Well, I grew up Pentecostal, all right, so I don't
Okay.
know about
Okay.
gospel chops so much, but gospel
All right.
chops for white people, maybe.
Right. Yeah, right. Four on the floor.
Boom tick tick, man.
Hmm.
I'm telling you, okay.
Yeah.
I grew up in Newfoundland, Canada, okay.
Yeah.
So I was always following along with that stuff and would always be keeping beat on time with everything that was going on there. And that's
Hmm.
like before I can remember even. And I really wanted to do drum lessons. And I think I might have been like 6 years old. I asked my parents, I want to do drum lessons. Like, please let me do drum lessons. I want to play drums so bad.
Hmm.
And they made me do 2 years of piano.
Not a bad base, but
Not a
not
bad base at all.
not the
Glad
same.
they did. Really
Yeah.
glad they did. As an adult, you appreciate what they did.
Yeah.
As a
Because
kid, you're just
piano
like, this sucks.
piano is all to a metronome. So building that sense of time is
well,
killer.
well, theory
Yeah.
that came along with it, and you know, reading music and sight reading and multiple. Now, ask me to play piano now.
No.
Not happening, man. Not happening. Very,
Yeah.
very seldom will I sit down and play. Um, some, you know, it's kind of just like the classic. Oh, I wish I stuck with that.
Yeah.
But you know, I made a choice. I was like, oh, drums is. I'm all in on drums.
Yeah.
And so
Most
after,
drummers are.
yeah, 100%. And after 2 years of playing piano and doing piano lessons and keeping up on the practice and everything, kept my end of the bargain. They kept
Mhm.
theirs. I got in drum lessons. And yeah, now keep in mind, I'm only like 8 years old at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
So I get in drum lessons, and my drum teacher, I remember the first year I was in drum lessons, wasn't allowed to touch a drum kit.
Ooh. Oh man, I hate that.
All I wanted was to play. I just wanted to play drums, just play. And what did I have for a year? Rudiments
Practice pad.
rudiments on a practice pad and a snare
Oh.
drum.
I
Rudiments. So
mean,
I went
I
from
get the
two
importance of
years of
that.
piano, of practicing scales, theory, rudiments on a piano. You get into the next part. Boom. All right, I'm ready to play drums. Let's go. Full year, rudiments on a practice pad. And
Mm.
again, as an adult, I appreciate that. But as
Yeah.
a kid,
Yeah, it's
that
tough, man.
sucks, man.
You really have to have that drive to want it, to persevere through that to get to the drum kit. Because
Oh yeah,
I've
100%.
I've given lessons and I would always divide the lesson. The first half would be practice pad, work on rudiments,
Yeah.
explain the reason for it, have the metronome going so they can kind of get a sense of the time, the subdivision of a quarter note to an eighth note kind of thing, not going too crazy, singles, doubles. And then the latter half was always, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to play a beat and then you're going to play it. And then we're going to work through that together. And then by the end of the practice, you'll be doing like a four on the floor kind of thing or what, like,
Hmm.
so I'd always have it, half and half. And then the last 10 minutes, I'm just like, or 5 to 10 minutes, I just fucking beat the shit out of it. Like,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Just go for it. Just go
just go
for it.
for it. Just doesn't have to be a beat, doesn't have to just, come to whatever you want to do. And,
Yeah.
and they kept coming back for lessons because of that. But I could not imagine a full 30 minutes or yeah, because I would never do an hour long lesson with just rudiments. Like how long were your lessons at that stage?
I do believe they were a half hour at
Okay,
that point.
because an hour would just be just
An hour of rudiments. Now I'll sit down now and I enjoy it,
mhm.
right? Like I'll just come down and sometimes I'll even sit behind that kit, no sound on. It's just really nice to be able to practice and go around and just
Go
warm
around the
up the
kit with them, yeah.
muscles and kind of just have that muscle memory
Because
because it
it's
was a
one thing to
long
do a
time that I didn't
paradiddle.
play.
It's one thing to do a paradiddle on a pad, but then it's another to move it around the kit and kind of get fluid with doing it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's great even just sitting down on a practice pad because
yeah.
I fidget, right? Like I have ADHD as bad as it gets, man. And so having something like this, like I'll be watching TV and I'll just be like,
Yeah.
right, I'm just going nonstop.
If I could bring them to work, I would.
Oh
But
yeah,
I would
yeah,
get kicked out
yeah,
so
100%
fast.
fired immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you, so with going from lessons, rudiments for a year to finally getting to play in the drums, how quickly were you like picking up on playing to music, like playing along to songs and taking that into wanting to play with other people?
It's funny. I never really thought about playing with other people for a long time. I had really bad stage fright when I was a kid too. I couldn't perform in front of people. I don't know why that is or how that changed or why it changed. I uh I just had really bad anxiety around performing for people. So I'd play in
Hmm.
my basement at home and that was enough for me, right?
Hmm.
I just loved it, and I wanted to get better and better and better. So even after I stopped doing drum lessons for a while, I was just like obsessed with watching like Drumeo videos and stuff like that, and studying other percussionists and what they're doing and how they play, without injuring themselves and how they play incredibly fast
Hmm.
and I was obsessed. I was obsessed with the drums, man, and I still kind of am. I still kind of am obsessed with the drums,
Yeah.
and I just love playing drums. I said that the other night. I was like, oh man, I love playing drums. But like when I
Yeah.
was a kid, I guess like finding out when I wanted to play with other people, I think a couple people who were around, like a couple friends who played guitar, played bass, like just different instruments, were like, "Hey, you play drums, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were, "We should start a band. Like, we should jam." I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where it naturally comes from, anyways. Like
Yeah.
any of
Yeah.
us probably remember the time was just like
Yeah. Hey, you
that
play
one
a
friend.
guitar? What? You
You
play an
you
instrument too? No
yeah,
way. And
we can
then
do that at the same time. Oh, okay. Oh, that's a band.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. We're in a band now.
yeah. And then you start playing cover songs terribly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I still remember I saw a video of a drum solo that I did in I was in junior high. So like you can imagine, it was bad. It was not good.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom has a VHS cassette somewhere.
Yeah.
High school talent show. Oof,
And it was at a
man.
talent show. It was at a talent show.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed at that point. Like a massive influence for me was Mike Portnoy in Dream Theater.
Ooh.
It's like my favorite band. So, like that was the moment like when I saw their DVD Score, which is the 20th anniversary Dream Theater DVD in live in New York. That is a defining moment for me that I can
Oh,
remember being all in on music.
wow.
And that was 2007 for me. So that was I was in junior high and I was obsessed with like music at that point because I had never heard anything like that up to there.
Yeah. Well,
Up to
Dream
that point,
Theater's,
I had never heard anything like that, right?
yeah, that prog rock is something else. And the technicality and the work that goes into it before it's like, again, it's that whole practicing on rudiments and developing those skills in order to
Mhm.
be able to have the vocabulary behind the kit to play that. Because I come from a totally different school and fuck that. I'll watch it. I'll love it. And I'll never play it.
Oh well, my goal in grade 7 for me at that point was I'm gonna play drums in Dream Theater.
They're
That's
gonna call.
that's definitely gonna happen for me. That's
Yeah.
obviously I'm
And then when
14.
Mike left, I mean, that was your in, right?
That was my in. That was my in, of course.
Yeah, stupid Mike Mangini.
Yeah, like what kind of accolades does he even have?
World's fastest drummer, my ass.
He's scary. He's scary fast.
Yeah, he's scary good too, man. So, well, just what's your opinion on that whole Dream Theater, Mike Portnoy, Mangini thing?
Oh man, I'm interested to see what their new album is going to be like.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting to me though that that after so long of him being out of the picture, that all of a sudden he would be back in. But I mean, I watched an interview he did, and he said like time heals all wounds,
Mhm.
and I'm really excited to hear what their album sounds like.
Yeah. So you don't put any stock into that whole conspiracy thing of him leaving. It was all planned for him to leave and then come back, like from the get.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so
No.
either. Bands break up all the time.
Yeah.
People, there's egos, especially in a band like that,
Goodness,
where
yes.
they're so proficient at what they do and like one wants it one way, one wants it another, and just strong personalities. Like it happens all the time.
And it wasn't to be honest, it wasn't really until this year when when they announced that he was coming back that I kind of listened to some of the Dream Theater albums that Mike Mangini had performed on
Mhm.
and recorded on. And man, they blew me away too.
Different
Because
band.
it's different band,
Mhm.
still the same kind of sound,
Yeah.
because there is obviously
Yeah.
massive influence from writing from John Petrucci and Jordan Rudess and
Mhm.
John Mayong and James LaBrie.
Yeah.
It's
But with Portnoy having been one of the primary songwriters in the beginning, to
yeah,
have him come back, it's going to be a totally different dynamic. It's going to be a third generation of the band.
it's gonna be cool. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be really cool.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing it for
I
sure.
definitely I appreciate especially the technicality
Hmm.
of all the stuff that they had recorded with Mike Mangini,
Hmm.
and I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So who else was a big influence other than Portnoy back in the day? Because I know like you play a lot of like blues and country and stuff. So where did those or were there any of those influences back then, or is that something that's just kind of part of the job?
It kind of fell in my lap, man.
Yeah.
I I played in punk bands. I played in hardcore bands. I played in metal bands going, up through like high school and everything, and even after high school, was playing in like punk and hardcore stuff. And I I wanted to play bigger venues, and I just didn't see any progression
Hmm.
from like this local music scene that I was in that I loved. Super fun, but like I'm not really getting paid for this. It's all completely out of just like having fun, loving
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, but once I started taking it a little bit more like seriously, like a job, like, oh, I want this to be my job. That's when I started kind of reaching out to a few different people and saying, hey, like, I play drums. I'm fairly unknown, but if you ever need a fill in or anything,
Hmm.
let me know. I'd love to work with you.
Yeah.
And that ended up being the case for a lot of my work that I ended up getting. I started playing covers in bars when I was 19, and that was like I was unknown then, and people would come in and they're just like, "Oh my goodness, who's that?" You know, and I was like the shit hot kid on the scene,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
basically.
Well, I mean, coming from the punk and the metal background, toning it back and being able to play just like a regular rock show is
Yeah,
kind of
and I
easy.
learned
It's kind of
I think
easy.
I learned more playing in cover bands
Yeah.
than I did anywhere else, I think, because I had to know a ton of songs I had never heard before.
Hmm.
So that put the fire under my ass for learning
Yeah. Yeah.
and learning quick.
Oh yeah.
And
Here's 45 songs. You need to know them by Friday.
yep,
You know,
yeah,
good luck.
and like it's like, hey, if you at the time it's just like, hey, if you know these songs and you come sit in with us, like $150.
Yeah.
I was like, $150 to play drums on a Friday night?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, count me in.
Can I do it on Saturday too?
Yeah. Well, we at that
Right?
point we'd book up full weekends, and
Yeah.
I'd fill in with whoever. I was just like, I will play drums with everybody. I will play
Yeah.
drums with anybody. But at the time too, you're a kid, so you're just like, man, why am I not getting all the calls?
Yeah.
Why am I not the one getting all the calls?
Yeah.
Kid, because you don't know anybody and you
Yeah.
don't know shit about what you're doing yet.
Yeah. That's paying your dues.
That's it, man. That's
Yeah.
it.
Um, so being in St. John's, I've been to St. John's and it's not a fairly big city. I mean, I know that what's the name of that street where all the clubs are on?
Oh, George
Um,
Street.
George Street. So would you just be kind of like hopping from one place to the next each night along George Street? Like how, because
Yeah, I still we play pretty regularly when we're home as well. Down at a bar called Green Sleeves, and we've been playing there for as long as they've been letting us.
yeah.
Just doing covers with just a few buddies,
Hmm.
and one of which being Nick Earle, who I play with as well. And so like we make the bulk of our income in the off season playing covers because the money's there.
Yeah.
And if there's no touring happening, then we're home and we're
Yeah.
playing covers. And if the
Still
money's
playing.
there, the money's there.
Yep.
Still
And you're still
playing.
still keeping that just that momentum of playing together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we play a lot, which is great. I mean, we're fortunate to do that.
Mhm. Because yeah,
Even
like how many
even
clubs are on George Street?
oh geez,
A good dozen, right?
it's known as like the most bar per
Yeah.
square footage
Yeah.
in all of North America or something
Yeah.
like
It's
something ridiculous like that.
yeah, it's like it's a whole street. Every
Yeah.
building is a different bar.
Yeah, and
And it's
each floor of the buildings sometimes are different bars as well.
mhm,
So there's a few buildings that are down there that are multi-level, and there are bars on each level of those.
yeah, with different acts playing at the
Yeah,
same time.
different acts, different DJs, and there's
Yeah.
also they have the George Street Festival that happens every year, and they bring in bands. It's a week-long festival. It's craziness down there. It's so much fun,
Yeah.
man. It's worth it to come down some summer
Yeah.
to check that out because it is super fun. They close down the whole street, and like I'm trying to think of who was here last summer. We had Third Eye Blind was here, and
Didn't you open for them
like
in the
yeah, we
Trues?
did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we're actually
Or the Trues are coming up, right?
depending on when this podcast airs.
Probably mid-April. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, a
How
couple
was the
weeks
show?
ago, yeah, the show was so good. As of right now,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
recording this,
It's in what,
the
in on the 29th, isn't it? Like
on
in
the 29th or 30th. We're
yeah.
we're going to Halifax now. A week from today, we're flying up, so we're up and around for a little bit, and yeah, that show is. I know there's low tickets on it. I don't know if it's completely sold out yet, but I would imagine by the time next weekend rolls around, we'll be
Mhm.
sold out, and that's going to be a fun show. We're really looking forward to that.
Yeah. So you've been playing with Nick Earle for a while. I was listening to the two albums,
Yeah,
and it's like a yin and yang thing because the first album is super blues heavy,
super
super
blues
rockin',
heavy.
and then the second album is very almost like, I don't want to say country radio, but
Hmm.
it's like top 40, like almost like it's two different bands.
That's the evolution of it.
Yeah. That just kind of happened naturally, like as you're in the room together, or was that kind of a
When
sort of a
we
conscious decision?
well, I guess when we started on, well, I guess the album, I guess you're talking about. I literally
That's
just
the
got
one.
this yesterday. No more hiding.
Nice.
This the vinyl just came in yesterday, and
Order it, people.
we got a couple. Yeah, order it. Check it out. It's not Nick Earl. No
It's
more
really
hiding.
good. It's really
Um,
good.
I appreciate that, man.
Mhm.
This was 2 years during lockdown of the pandemic. We started writing a recording of this in 2020, in July of 2020. I do believe is when it was.
Mhm.
And took us 2 years to fully decide on 8 songs that went on it.
Yeah.
We recorded. I mean, there was nothing else to do, right? We weren't doing anything else. Everything was locked down.
Yeah.
Just think it's the summer of 2020. Everything's locked down. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything.
You were even
We
lucky to be in the same room together.
Yeah. So we had to strategically plan when we were able to get together with us and Robert Kelly, who engineered and produced the album.
Mhm.
And we would just kind of go in at random times and stay for sometimes just like 16 hours at a time
Yeah.
that we
So would
that we were
you
recording.
so would you lay down a drum track and then the guys would play right on top of it automatically, or did you
It 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 most of that album
like song by
was
song?
was me and Nick playing most everything.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, so
because
did you
because
record it song by like finish a song before moving on to the next, or
yeah,
kind
we
of
we we would we would go back and look at different things as well, but like I think I don't know what the complete total number of songs was that we recorded, but it was outrageous.
Mhm.
Because I mean, we worked again, like we took a proper amount of time to go through and do the record and plan for it and everything like that. Um, and when we finally did release it, it was almost 2 years to the day that we had the release show from the first time we were in recording one of the singles on it.
Yeah.
And we released it, and it was like emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gone,
And
you go through a lot.
yeah, it was like a fitting kind of close to that, but it was like we were trying to just open the next chapter then.
Yeah.
And after that, we pitched it to radio, and they were like, it's unusable because it's already released.
What?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, they want when you have your songs like pitching it to radio, they
Uh-huh.
they want the unreleased stuff so that they can have a full control over it, I guess.
Like, I mean, who gets to decide what the cycle of an album is,
That's I have no idea. I have no
right?
idea.
I
It's
mean,
an interesting world that I still have absolutely no clue about.
yeah,
I feel like I'm just like I've only just scratched the surface of that whole side of the industry.
yeah. Um, so I know you've worked with a lot of different artists. When we met at the ECMAs, you were there supporting Nick, but you were also playing. You played with Quote the Raven, did
Hmm.
a little bit with them,
Yeah.
and I'm drawing a blank on the other artists that you were playing. But you were
I was
like
very busy that
so busy.
weekend. That weekend I was definitely kept on my toes. I was playing with, if I remember correctly, it was Nick and Quote the Raven, Rosemary Lawton, who is a artist from here. She's a fiddle player, like powerhouse of a fiddle player too.
Yeah.
Um, Rachel Cousins, who's a pop artist. I'm trying to think now. That weekend too, Claire Follett, who is the bass player in Nick Earle and the Reckless Hearts.
Hmm.
Also an absolute powerhouse of a vocal,
Yeah.
and like producer and engineer.
Yeah.
She's the kind of whole package, and she just holds us down and keeps us level headed because she's cooler than all of us, and that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna edit that part out. Don't worry about
Now you can edit that. You can edit that into the beginning of
it.
the
Okay.
video.
That's the soundbite. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's cooler than all of us, and she knows it.
But yeah, I remember because you were going literally from like we were having a conversation and then you're looking at your watch like, oh shit, and then like gotta run literally in
Yeah.
order to get to the other venue. And then the next time I saw you, you were literally doing the same thing, going from one bar to the other to make it in time for each act. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
And
the only other person,
I guess that weekend too, I was playing with Mallory Johnson. And I was playing with Justin Fancy as well.
yeah, it's insane. Yeah, I think the only other person that was maybe as busy as you were, but for different reasons, would have been Ryan Barry.
Oh yeah, Ryan was
He
freaking
was
running
everywhere.
around crazy.
It was nuts. But it
Yeah.
was such a fun weekend. It was just
So much fun. I
yeah,
have a blast at each one of those weekends too. And whether it's, the ECMAs or like Junos or anything like that. It's
yeah.
oh
So yeah, so you're going to Halifax for the Junos, is that when you
we're
mentioned you were
gonna
going to Halifax?
unfortunately we're unfortunately missing
Or no, wait, they're in
the first
PEI.
part of Junos. ECMAs are in PEI this year. The Junos are in Halifax this coming
Okay,
weekend.
I had it right.
Yeah. So we're missing the first part there, and then we're getting in on Tuesday, and then we have that week that's leading up to the show with the Trues there as well. But we're a little late to the party next week.
So when working with all those, I guess what I was getting to with working all those different people,
Mhm.
you sort of build a rapport and a trust with them, which then would lead to booking you in the studio because you're quite busy in the studio too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that definitely is a trend that happens. You get familiar with songs, and it's like the ultimate respect for somebody to trust you with their body of work
Hmm.
to put your style, your flavor on it.
Feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. I just did a demo actually with Rosemary, who I was talking about earlier. We did a demo to pitch so that we can get funding to do an album for her.
Okay.
And I was barely playing drums actually. I played rhythmically with my sticks on some rims of a tom that I had like a towel snare basically done over it,
Right.
and it just kind of muted that clickiness.
Hmm.
And I was doing a rhythm over that, and then after that I was putting down a clap track, but the claps were all over the place. And I just said, like through the talk back into the studio, I was like, "You're gonna think I'm crazy, but can you put a dotted eighth delay on my clapping right now?" and and they're like,
Uh,
"Okay." And that is basically the driving factor of that entire song now.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it, you know, who'd have
That's
thought? Who'd have thought?
No, but that comes with experience and knowing your craft and knowing what you're doing.
So it's funny. Sometimes you don't even record drums. You know, sometimes it's nothing to do with that at all. I've recorded a shoe, man. I did some Foley for an album that we did, I think 2018
Hmm.
when that came out. And it's to mimic somebody walking down like floorboards, and
Yeah,
it's my boot on top of a Marshall amp.
yeah. Well, it's like
You never know,
what is
right?
it? Queens of the Stone Age. They have some behind the scenes videos. I think it's when they did Lullabies to Paralyze. There's a
Mm-hmm.
guy on a table with a head of lettuce, and he's just chopping lettuce.
Right.
Like you get it's whatever to get the sound, right?
Exactly. Whatever it is to get the sound, whatever it is.
Yeah, and those little things are what add so much ambiance and feel to and mood to an album that often get overlooked, you know.
100%. So
And
much
it's
is
probably
just
the
covered
hardest
up.
part.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
I recorded once. I was working on an album. This was 2020. I mic'd up a couple different microphones, and I lit birch bark on fire, and to get the crackle,
Yeah.
it goes up, and you can hear it go when the
The
crackling of it.
crackling sound. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I love that stuff.
that's
Well, speaking of burning wood, when was the first time that you came across Los Cabos drumsticks?
speaking of burning,
Best
some
segue ever.
woo.
But so when was the first time you came upon Los Cabos and start using them?
First time I started using them, actually, I ended up down at the NAMM show in Anaheim in 2019.
Hmm.
And I was in LA working on an album at the time, and we ended up getting to go down to the NAMM show, and I was kind of just coming across through the drum section and like checking stuff out, because obviously you're just like looking around. It's the loudest place on earth.
Yeah.
It's just like craziness, and I was just like, oh, Los Cabos. I was like, I've heard of them before, and you know, I know they're based out of like New Brunswick, I think.
Yeah.
So I just stopped over, and who's the first person I talked to? It was Steph.
And then you're
And
hooked.
yeah, yeah, right.
She'll get you.
So Steph's the first person I talked to. Steph and Phil are there,
Yeah.
and I was just like kind of checking out some sticks. I was playing time, and nothing like specific. It's just 5As that I was playing. It's
Mhm.
just kind of what I grew up playing.
Yeah.
And I picked up the 8A stick, the ball tip, and it felt like pretty comfortable. It's as close feeling solid wise,
Yeah.
as anything that I played, and I'd never really given much thought to like what stick feels what way, and the dimensions and everything. Like I've never really been like that. I've always been like, give me a pair of sticks, I'm gonna play drums.
Yeah. Just yeah.
Right. um but then like giving it a little bit of thought, I was like, oh, this is pretty comfortable. And then she came over, she was like, oh, hey, like, we're Los Cabos and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, you're based in like New Brunswick, right? And she was like, yeah. And she was like, where are you from? I was like, oh, well, I'm based in St. John's, Newfoundland. And she said, fuck off. No way. You're a Newfie? You're a
You don't,
Newfie?
yeah, because there's no accent. You don't sound like one,
Yeah.
right?
She's like blown away. She'll remember this too. I know, if Steph, if you're watching this,
Yeah.
you'll remember.
Yeah.
And that is where the Los Cabos relationship started.
Yeah.
And when she gave me a few pairs of sticks. She was like, you got to try these out. Like, let's hang out the weekend, because that was literally day one of NAMM 2019. And then we had met up. I'd been around the booth a bunch the next couple days and everything too. We were taking in a bunch of different sessions that were going on and just kind of taking it all in, right?
Yeah. And then how
And
can you
then we
not
and
go
then we had
back?
to, oh yeah, 100%.
Right.
And we just we got to talking and ended up, saying, hey, I think this is the right fit for me right now and what I'm doing. And I was down there. She gave me some sticks to bring into the studio. I was recording down there. And so after we were done at NAMM, we were back in studio. So it was cool. But after a long time, a couple of years actually of playing 8As, I was sent down a couple pairs of 77As. And I'm so bummed out. You don't even know, dude. I got an email like I
I
want to
got the
say,
email. Yeah.
oh, I want to
I
say
got the
like
same
6
one.
months ago. They're discontinuing the 77A stick. And so I got as many as I could get my hands on.
Yeah. I mean, well,
Because I
that's the
was so
thing.
bummed out. This is my favorite stick. I immediately, when I played it, I was like, okay, this is what's up.
Hmm.
Lengthwise, tip wise, everything. I was like, man, this is a solid drumstick, man.
Yeah.
I
So what is it?
love
A
this.
teardrop tip?
Yeah, hold on. Let's
Yeah.
see if I can get it to. Can I
Oh
get
yeah.
this to focus?
That's like super buddy rich, man.
Super, super, super easy to play.
Yeah.
Super articulate. Um, Good taper to it. I just like
Yeah. Which
I'm
is
a
funny
nerd
because
about this stick.
when you were saying earlier, and it's true because it's just give me a pair of sticks and I'll play.
100%.
But then when you actually zone in on the minutia of it and you find that stick, it becomes a part, it's an extension of your arm, right? So it
Yeah,
becomes a
100%.
part of you and your style and your sound and everything. Like just I don't think a lot of people like other musicians like guitar players and bass players, like they have their
Mhm.
strings and they have their picks and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
100%.
It's the same thing with drummers and their drumsticks. Like
Yep.
it's probably the most important piece of gear that you have,
Really didn't give much thought about it until
right?
it was in my hand and I played and I was like, this feels right.
Yeah.
It feels good, man. It just feels good, man. There's certain aspects that you play and you're like, oh man, it just makes it easier.
Um, so I have a section that I call the crash questions.
Okay.
So they're, I guess every podcast now has like a quick fire type of a thing, but this is more geared towards the drummer and the musician. Um, so they're quick fire if you want, but you can go as deep as you want. Um,
Okay.
one of my, and this is, I have a couple that are just for me. This one's for me because I always find it very interesting what the answer for this one is. So, what's your happy place when you're you're finding yourself in a groove? Is it on the hi-hat or on the ride?
I'd say hi-hat.
Yeah.
Like if I'm in a groove,
Like you're just
um,
kind of in that zone.
there's nothing like kick snare and hats.
Yeah.
That's
Sweet.
all you need, man.
Yeah.
Can't do it with that. What are you gonna do with the big drum kit?
Fair enough. See,
That's a quick answer for a quick question.
it is, but it goes deep, right?
Fair enough. That's
Yeah.
fair. I thought
Um,
you were gonna just be like where do you find yourself? And I'm like, oh, in my backyard for sure.
yeah,
Greenhouse. Yeah,
when you take your socks off and step in the grass.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. That's the happy place right there.
Yeah.
Mid July, out
I
in the
think I'm gonna
backyard.
start an OnlyFans of just pictures of my feet.
Yeah, in the grass.
Yeah.
Just
Blades
grass.
of grass and toes. Yeah.
Man, you'll be surprised. Okay, I'm just
I know.
saying.
I know.
You'd be surprised at the amount of money that is out there in that kind of work. Not from not from personal experience,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I tell you,
I know where all your royalty checks are going.
yeah, the royalty checks are actually from Feet Finder.
Um, so what's your favorite or oldest piece of gear that you can't live without?
My, that's a good question, man.
Haha.
That is a really good question. I think maybe not my oldest piece of gear, but like my go-to, my favorite snare drum that I have is like it's a I think it's a 1994 Ludwig Superphonic, and I got it used at Guitar Center when I was in the States, and man, I use that on pretty much every recording,
Hmm.
and it's my main snare on most of my shows, unless I can't fly it with me anywhere.
Hmm.
I use that religiously because it's just a friggin' workhorse, man.
Yeah.
So I bring that to every gig, whether it's a
What
pub gig or if it's
what's
a
it made of?
arena gig or whatever. The let me
Is
see
it a
if I can
brass or
find it.
cop or steel?
That one's a steel snare, I do believe. It's not a brass one. I do have I've got a black nickel over brass DW collector's edition. That's a really nice snare, and I used it a lot, but it's actually right here off to the side. I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
that's it right here.
Yeah, I see it.
That's that one.
So
Beautiful
what
snare drum
size is
too.
that Ludwig? Is it 6.5 or is it 5.5?
5.5. Yeah, 14 by 5.5.
Hmm.
And it sounds good high, it sounds good low, sounds good medium, sounds good if you put a towel on it. It just
Yeah.
sounds good. It just sounds good, man. Like, oh, and it's
Good
on.
drum's a good drum.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I don't know if I have any older gear than that.
No, that answer's good. That's, it's oldest or, you know, yeah,
I think my I can't live without at this point are some of my electronics and my triggers that I use.
right.
I think that's become so ingrained in like what I'm playing now that that I need those. And I will say I won't play a show without my in-ears.
Yeah.
I don't play without in-ears ever. Even if there's no in-ear option on
Yeah.
like a
You got like a
on
side
any
wedge,
show,
but yeah.
I'll still wear them as earplugs. I
Yeah.
can't not play without them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just that's my go-to, man. Always.
Yep. I I've never used in-ears on stage. But yeah, I'll often throw these in.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Once you get used to playing with them,
Mhm.
you don't want to not play with them.
Yeah. Next question. Do you prefer cake or pie?
Pie.
Right answer.
Yeah, I think pie is I want pie now. Thanks.
That's
Come
what I
on,
do.
Trey. You just made me want a slice of pie.
So if you could time travel to any event or live show or whatever, um, time travel doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Where would you go?
I I I already touched on it before. The Dream Theater show,
Be at the
Radio City
show.
Music Hall. If I had a chance to be at that show,
Yeah.
that's just like a light bulb moment went off when I first saw that. I was like, music can be like this.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I've seen Dream Theater live too with Mike Portnoy. It was on their Black Clouds and Silver Linings tour.
Hmm.
Um, right before he left. It was right before he left the band.
Oh,
And I got to see them, and they were opening for Iron Maiden.
that's a
And
kick-ass show.
that is a kick-ass show, man. And so that was in Montreal. Geez, that must have been, it might have been 2010,
Yeah,
but
because it's coming up on the because what is it, 14 years since he left the band? So
yeah,
it would have been,
yeah,
yeah,
something
would have
something
right
like
there.
that.
Yeah.
And we like me and my dad, that's kind of like what we liked to do. And I'd still love to do that now too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
should see if I can surprise him with a show. He'd always surprise me with like concert tickets,
Yeah, yeah.
and me and him do like a guys trip somewhere. So he
Nice.
took me to see, oh man, so many bands he took me to see, and this was one of those shows.
Yeah.
Iron Maiden and Dream Theater at the Bell Center
I
in
wanted
Montreal.
I wanted to do that with my son last year in Quebec
Mm.
City to go see Rammstein.
Oh, what a show!
but wasn't able to pull that off. So, oh
Oh man.
yeah,
That would be quite the show. That would be
yep,
quite the show to pull
yep,
off, man.
yeah. So anyway, um, so what would be your proudest accomplishment, be it music or just in general?
I think like being able to purchase a home with income solely from music.
That's the
That
dream, man.
that was like,
Yeah,
and now I've supplemented my income not by music and by having a day job and everything too, you know what I mean?
yeah. Of course. I mean, yeah. I mean,
but
that's just
but
part of.
that's
Yeah.
that's like the last few years I've been doing different things outside of music.
Hmm.
Um, but before that, like my entire savings account,
Yeah.
attributed to being able to do that. It was a long time coming, but
Yeah.
that's like, I think that's kick ass.
That is pretty kick-ass. No, that's absolutely kick-ass. I think that's what I mean when you start playing and wanting to do it for a living, that's the end goal. That's the dream.
Yeah,
That's,
100%.
to
Just be able to be comfortable,
mhm.
which it is becoming more and more impossible to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
Dude,
major
it's
touring bands, I mean, maybe not big label support bands and stuff, but a lot of big bands in from Canada at least
mhm,
all have to supplement during the off time with, either working in a music store or at a
100%.
bar or, whatever. It's just part of the times.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, man.
What band, if they called you right now, could you sub in for without a rehearsal?
Without a rehearsal?
Yeah,
Oh, geez. I'd say Nate Smith.
badass.
Probably Nate Smith, or I I've been listening to a lot of country lately.
Yeah, yeah. Some
Well,
Jason Aldean or
right at this point. It would be if Nate Smith called and said, "I need you on a show tomorrow," I'd be able to do it. And if Chris Young called, which is both like absurd, that'll literally never happen.
yeah,
But like that's two I've been jamming lately.
yeah, yeah.
So funny,
Cool.
you get immersed in country music. I never planned to play country,
No, I
right?
I
I never planned to play country, but
I
I love it. I love
yeah.
it so much.
Yeah, growing up, my father played in a country cover bands, and my brother was a drummer. He's 9 years older than I am, so
Mm,
he was playing drums before me, and he was a mechanic during the day, or like, that was his job, and so he would get me pretty much to drum tech for him. Like I would go and set up the drum kit at, like,
yeah,
the Lions Club or the Knights of Columbus or whatever, set up the
classic.
kit, and then they'd sound check, and I'd be in the back there playing Chattahoochee, or whatever the song was at the
Yeah,
time.
100%, man.
So I would, I came from a country music, well, my parents anyway were big into country music, so I've always had country music around me. But then, when I started listening to what I wanted to listen to, or my brother influenced me into listening to like Motley Crue and Ozzy and Sabbath and all that stuff. And then in my teens, turned to, punk rock with No Effects and Rancid. And so that's,
100%.
where I came. So I could probably sub in for No Effects,
That would be
you
such
know,
a fun show.
or Rancid, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, those, two different punk styles, but I'd, s- I wish I could sub in for Bad Religion, but man, those drum
crazy.
parts are amazing.
You don't appreciate it until you try to learn it, right? You're just
Yeah,
like, oh shit, this
right. I mean,
is how is he playing this? Like, what
yeah, I
what
mean,
is this?
Brooks Wackerman, like, come on.
Unreal,
Yeah.
absolutely unreal. And him playing with Avenged Sevenfold is like perfect fit.
Oh, yeah. When he left, I
Like,
was a little bummed, but then when they
mm,
got Jamie Miller, I was just like, okay,
mhm.
yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Miller is just so good. Yeah. Okay, so what song or drum part do you wish that you had recorded?
Oh, dude, you're firing questions at me that I need to think about.
Sorry about that. There's only one more after this. The torture is almost over.
Oh man. What drum part? Drum part specifically.
Song or drum part that was credited to Dan George instead of whoever has the credit now.
Could you imagine being credited with the Phil Collins Phil?
Right?
You know what one I'm talking about.
Of course.
In the air
It's the one from
tonight, man.
Studio, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Uh,
the Tarzan soundtrack or whatever. Yeah.
that that would be an incredible accomplishment, wouldn't
Yeah.
that? I mean, come on, like you just do. That's a classic.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Classic. All right, cool.
Come
Last
on.
one. Last
Imagine
one.
writing that.
This one could get you in trouble on the tour bus.
Let's go.
So if you were in a van on tour and
Okay.
or bus or whatever, and it's a CD player, all right. So we're talking old medium, old technology.
Let's
What
go.
CD would you not want to be stuck in the CD player?
Oh, would not want to be stuck in a CD player.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't even know if I have an answer to this one. I have no idea. Because I think any CD, if it's stuck long enough, is going to get annoying, man.
yeah, but off
It
the
doesn't
hop,
matter if you love it or if you hate it.
eventually you're gonna hate it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you want to go with one that it's just like nobody wants to listen to anyways, is probably Chinese Democracy by Guns N' Roses.
That's good. That's good. That's a terrible record.
Definitely don't want that one stuck.
No, no. Who who even played drums on that? Was it Josh Freese? Because he played on everything. I don't know.
I wouldn't even be able to tell you, man.
Because I
I
don't know if because
wouldn't even be able to tell you.
I know the drummer they have now. I actually ran into him in Moncton. Frank
Oh, no
Farrell.
way.
Yeah, yeah. He was just walking like because when they played in Moncton last summer,
Yeah.
and I was just in Moncton with the family going to a comic book shop, and I look over and I see him walking on the sidewalk, and I'm like, "Holy shit, that's Frank Farrell!" And my wife is like, "Who?"
Yeah.
I said, "It's the good
Classic.
drummer for Guns N'
Classic.
Roses." So anyway, I took my dog for a walk and bumped into him on the sidewalk and had
No
a good
way.
chat with
That's
him.
so cool,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Super, super cool dude. Like major chill. Like, yeah, yeah.
I love
He
that.
was surprised that anybody even recognized or knew who he was.
I guess so, right? Like you just
'Cause
like you I
he was
think
like, Frank? He's
as
like,
especially as a drummer,
yeah,
you're always in the background.
yeah,
Like I never expect anybody to know who I am.
yeah,
Like even if I walk off stage and people have just watched me play,
yeah.
they're not looking at me.
Nope.
They generally are just like, "Hey, did you see the band? They're
Yeah.
good."
Sometimes you'll get a head nod
Yeah,
and then you'll
right,
see them
right.
talk to the guitar player or whatever, and you're just like,
Yeah,
yeah, cool. I'm just gonna go
yeah.
get a beer and hang out.
Just hang out. I'm just gonna go back and play some more after.
Yep. Oh man. This was awesome. This exceeded my expectations. This was such a good chat,
Oh,
man.
dude. Well, thank you so much for having
Yeah.
me. I'm glad to chat anytime, man.
Yeah.
So glad.
We'll have to do it again later on sometime. Have to get you to come back after you've
Yeah, see how
played the
see how the
trues.
summer goes. See
Yeah.
how the summer goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess by the time this comes out, then man, that True show was so good.
Killer, right?
It's just it was just wild. And
Awesome.
when that one thing happened, right?
Can you believe it?
Couldn't believe it.
Seriously though, this was really cool. Thanks so much for doing it.
Oh man, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Quarter Notes Podcast, presented by Los Cabos Drumsticks. We'll be back with another great episode in the weeks to come. For now, I'll have all the links to everything Los Cabos, as well as all things Dan George. So until the next one, thanks so much for watching and take care of yourselves and each other. Bye for now.
She's the kind of girl I was born to lose.